Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, How to Compete on Customer Experience, Enabling Growth and Increasing Customer Retention. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. Just to give you a heads up, my name is Christian Grunkemeyer. I'm Director and Subject Matter Expert over at DataMotion, and I will be your host and co-presenter for today's webinar. And joining me today is Cathy Cucharale. Cathy's President of Cucharale Consulting Group, which provides comprehensive solutions for financial firms. Welcome, Cathy.
Thanks, Christian. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. This is a great topic.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so the overview, during this webinar, we're going to discuss how to enable customer growth, how to improve customer retention based on that customer experience of things like your self-service portal and your apps. And we'll start out with some trends in the industry, such as what clients are looking for. We can examine some challenges that you might be facing, and then we can turn to how to improve that customer experience. But before we get started, I do want to cover a couple of housekeeping items. So today's webinar is being recorded. It will be made available to you afterwards. And we will have some time at the end of the session to address any questions that you might have. So please type your questions in the chat bar below, and we will get to as many of them as time allows. And if you do have any technical difficulties with the webcast, please contact Bright Talk Technical Support. And for more information on DataMotion, please visit www.datamotion.com. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what exactly does customer experience, or CX, mean? So Harvard Business Review defines customer experience as the cumulative impact of your customer's end-to-end journey with you, the multiple touch points over time which create a true competitive advantage to companies that get it right. All right, well, what does that mean in English? So CX it's a different breed and dimension. It's unlike anything else that you currently measure. It's not a short-term line item metric or a KPI. It's much, much more complex than that. It's a lifetime journey across all touch points and communication channels, and we strongly believe that the ultimate measure of customer experience is a customer's lifetime value and being able to keep that customer for as long as possible. Customer experience is not a one-off interaction or a marketing campaign. It's a holistic strategy that marries customer expectations with the business objectives of the organization. And that CX and revenue is not necessarily a zero-sum game. So your customers and your revenue are actually linked incrementally. And an organization's service improvements can result in significant long-term growth. And in the end, the consumers, they want to feel understood as individuals with relevant offers and messaging, but the reality is that a lot of these institutions are still struggling to use their customer data to create more meaningful experiences for them. It's kind of the difference between hearing and listening. So in order to be customer-centric, you constantly need to be in touch with your customers' experiences, and institutions that embrace this approach still succeed, and those that do not will be left behind. All right, so knowing what to do with all that data is very important. So as an organization, you should figure out what to do with all of this data that you're compiling. And leveraging that data is key to a successful customer experience holistic strategy. As rapidly advancing technology and innovation threaten old world value propositions, institutions they're forced to shift their focus on simply providing a service to using vast amounts of unused customer data to deliver what we call experiences. So you need to do this in order to stand out and compete. And almost every institution understands the importance of being customer-centric and delivering friction-free customer experience. But many struggle to deliver that. So analyzing all this data can bring you closer to your customer. And by simply prioritizing their needs, they can bring you closer to meeting and exceeding long-term revenue objectives. That by increasing wallet share, decreasing recurrent cost attrition, recurring operational costs, and actually boosting the overall bottom line. So assessing valuable insights from data can lead to better understanding of your customers and help create more relevant experiences for them. And actually, a 2019 study by Forrester Research, they found that fewer than half of banking providers are effectively using their customer data to help create that experience. So basically, knowing what to do with all of that gathered data that you have, it's very powerful. And it helps for changing and improving that overall customer experience. And the ability to analyze that data along the entire process and determine how it impacts your bottom line is necessary to achieving accurate results. So with technology, the one piece of the puzzle that's necessary for an effective holistic customer experience program designed to deliver complete omni-channel experience. So the major challenge that needs to be addressed is kind of the way digital innovation has changed customer expectations. So as the customer gets smarter, your ability to adapt to their demand must actually increase as well. And delivering a cross-channel experience that's strategic and that's compelling and consistent will be critical to building that trust, the confidence, and the credibility. So every department within an organization should have a valuable role to play, not just the marketing team in a silo or the information technology team in a silo. I do want to say that again. So delivering a strategic cross-channel experience that's compelling and consistent will be critical to building trust and improving the credibility of your brand. And it sounds obvious, but making everything very easy for your customers. And it's clear that customers engage companies in so many different ways, especially now that everyone's working remotely. We call these different ways channels. But customers will always think about the easiest way to get what they want when they want it. And more frequently, especially in this growing age of remote working, this is an online digital channel. And it's the reason that we shouldn't forget the importance of continuously monitoring, improving, maintaining an accurate and quality online experience. And making the digital experience easy for the customers is a key component of this. So Cathy, what do you think, what kind of questions do you think the audience needs to be asking themselves at this point?
Sure thing. Thanks, Christian. You know, when thinking about the customer experience, you know, here's a few questions you should be asking yourself. Like, how are you communicating electronically now with your clients? Or are you even doing that at this point? Some places really haven't even started that process, and sometimes you think about that and you think everybody is. If you are, do you offer a self-service portal, you know, as an option to them? Are your electronics communication program, is it easy? Is it easy for your customers? What about your users? It's really important to make sure that the front end and the back end users find it easy to use. How does your electronics communication program meet with your compliance requirements? This is where cross-channel experience comes into play. You know, meaning is, you know, like your operations team, are they on board with the compliance and marketing teams with your electronic communication? Can digital automation be used for automating some of your workflows, like statement delivery, transaction confirms, invoicing? What other types of information? Maybe just with your employees going back and forth, as well as with your customer base. These are the various kinds of questions that you should think about when you want to deliver a world-class service and also build a consistent customer experience.
Sure. Thank you, Cathy. Before we actually elaborate on how to answer some of those questions, so the reason that we're actually talking about all this customer experience stuff is because of the recent boom, and that's in both population and technology. So last year, the millennial generation, those born between 81 and 96, they actually overtook baby boomers as the largest adult population in the U.S., and that was according to government data. I think it was analyzed by the Pew Research Center. So realistically, why do we care? Well, the millennials are the future of your company's growth. And Lexington Law states that they prefer brands who offer a unique experience that's cost-effective and provides great customer service. I mean, it all seems like a no-brainer. I'm pretty sure we all want that, right? So how do they judge the customer experience? millennials heavily weigh a brand's customer experience into their perception of that brand. And 3/4 of them are actually reporting that they'll completely switch to another brand if they have a negative experience. And the focus has been shifting in years for companies to make sure that their customer is truly satisfied. Contrary to popular belief, 60% of millennials actually remain loyal to the brands they purchase, and they truly believe that they actually have a responsibility to share their feedback with a brand about their experience. And if they have a negative experience, well, 3/4 of them are actually going to share that negative experience and switch to another brand. So that's why a positive experience is so important, because this group is more likely to share a positive experience and remain loyal to your brand. And we strongly believe that everyone who understands in order to engage with the millennials, institutions must weave seamless experiences across digital platforms and multiple channels, as millennials use their mobile devices pretty much to manage everything these days. And they want every single interaction to be seamless and simple. So I guess, Cathy, how would you start by improving the overall customer experience?
Well, Christian, in my years of running a duly registered broker-dealer advisory firm, one of our biggest challenges was how to create a great customer experience while staying compliant. Firms these days are under pressure to provide clients with information that is available on many different types of devices and in real time. Clients want the experience of walking into a brick-and-mortar location, but digitally. And then you have to keep it in a secure environment. This is particularly due to customers now being bombarded with advertisements from places like Capital One or Rocket Mortgage, for example, which show them how they can open an account and get approval from anywhere. Clients want the ability to access their account information and communicate with their investment firms at any time on any device. This puts the customer in control of the entire process, with support available 24/7 as needed. Not just during the regular Monday through Friday time period. I find this true myself included. I work all different kinds of hours a day, and just this past week I had several issues that I needed to address after normal business hours and couldn't reach anyone to assist me or to provide me the answers I needed. I had to wait till the next day. Customers are looking for that convenience and easy access. Another example, instead of having to remember 27 different logons, as we know from all the different sites you go to, customers want the ability to use a single sign-on solution. Let's face it, the mobile generation that we're in right now has transformed how we live and work and play, and it's going to continue to evolve. For financial firms, this is a critical time. Investors prefer to utilize the unique benefits offered by new technologies, whether they're talking to their friends or they're conducting their business. This is forcing firms to change and adapt their operational procedures in order to stay competitive in these changing times. Forward-thinking firms are looking for opportunities to expand the communication channels they utilize with customers while building new and more thoughtful supervisory policies to meet regulations. This is especially true right now as we face this new normal. Customers need the ability and convenience to conduct business as usual, but remotely. To maintain a high customer experience, businesses are scrambling to implement processes to meet the demands. With social distancing a priority right now, firms are required to rethink their policies. How does a customer open a new account? How do they deposit funds or withdraw them? Many banks right now don't even have an electronic signature process in place. Instead, they're actually making the clients come to the drive-thru to sign physical documents, waiting in these huge lines. Did you know that if you need, it's just another example, a document notarized, you can't have it done at all because you can't have that interaction in person? Customers of all ages are looking for a better and safer way to conduct business so they can stay in their homes. For the best customer experience, you need to have options available if the customer cannot be physically with you. Christian, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. So DataMotion being a security company, a lot of our focus is just on secure communications, but I mean, you're right about all the other stuff, especially things getting notarized. But at least from our perspective, when I'm speaking with financial professionals about something like improved customer experience, the idea is it's to provide them the easiest way to share sensitive information. And we know it's frustrating from a business perspective when you're limited to things like clunky methods of securely communicating with your client. One of DataMotion's customers, they're a wealth management firm, and they focus exclusively on high net worth individuals. And oftentimes they had their clients complain about having to log into a separate portal or having to create another username and password, and oftentimes forgetting that password. And that's all just to get a message or send a file. And this particular company, by the way, they're very technology heavy, very tech savvy. They were looking for a solution that not only made this process easier, but also provided a fully integrated solution for their clients and was able to kind of future-proof them for all this. And for this company, customer experience is very important to them, and especially with dealing with high net worth clients. I mean, for them, the average customer is worth over $40 million. So even losing one of those clients is devastating to a company like that. And making communications easy, intuitive, and integrated not only set them apart from their competition, but it also showed their clients that they truly care about them and the privacy of their information. So in the end, it is hard to keep up with technology trends while still keeping everything secure and compliant, but it's definitely not impossible. So I would say one of the biggest hurdles that I see when working with firms is trying to keep pace with technology trends. And a lot of the firms recognize that they're focusing too much energy on older and outdated technology, and they actually struggle to find resources to correct the issue. So a lot of businesses put processes in place to meet regulatory demands, but a lot of the times they don't actually take the extra steps needed to review that program from the user's perspective. So for example, is this regulatory program easy for the user to send information? Is it easy for the customer to retrieve the information? Is it easier for the compliance team to actually review that communication without having to jump through a lot of hoops or accidentally gain access to information they shouldn't see? But also sending confidential information electronically to customers should not always be left up to the sender as well, to remember to do something like hit a secure button or put a certain word in the subject or whatever it might be. A lot of the times, depending on your industry, this should happen automatically. And I would say before implementing any type of electronic communications program, all businesses should look at how that program will impact their users. They should identify any compliance risks that they have, and most importantly, what impact does this have on their customers? All three of these areas are key for a successful implementation of this type of a program. And if the program works great for employees to use, and it's easy for the compliance department to review, but in the end it makes it difficult for the customer, well, that's going to impact the customer experience.
Christian, this is so true. When I'm working with my clients, one of the first things we do is review their entire process workflow. It is so important to review how any system impacts their client experience, operations, and compliance itself, not just the technology side. I look to see that, that they've tested the complete process to include what the outcome is for the client. Many times I find that one or more steps have been missed. Here's a great example. When it comes to sending a client to, a large file that you need to send out, like an account statement, for example. Did you know that most firms do not have a way to securely send a large file like that? In many cases, the files are too large to be sent via secure email due to their size limitations on their program. This becomes a compliance issue because now the employees are trying to, do the best experience for their customer, and now they create an unsecure workaround, and that becomes now a compliance issue.
Yeah, that's definitely true, Cathy. And at that point, what we hear is compliance teams are left with explaining to their regulars why something wasn't sent securely, and why was it sent in a portal that they weren't aware of. And that can oftentimes lead to a lengthy corrective measure, or even in some cases regulatory fines, even though we don't want to say that. But having an easy program to use for them, such as something that's like a self-service portal, may actually help address this type of concern for a lot of firms who struggle with this type of issue.
True.
Yeah. So in the end, I'd say a self-service website, when I mentioned this whole self-service portal thing, it could be a portal, it could be a mobile app. It's this whole customer service omni-channel communications, and that can actually provide great value if implemented the right way. And based on the feedback that we get from our customers, it seems like they're always looking to add more communication channels to support their process. I mean, the idea is, we were talking about it before, they want to give their customers access across all these different devices. They want to empower their agents internally to easily communicate with their customers. And introducing more support channels is great for increasing customer communications, but it does oftentimes make it harder to ensure security and compliance. So nevertheless, this is where integrated secure messaging solutions come in handy. And the idea of what we call a secure message center, that adds something like webmail, file exchange, web form services natively to things like member service portals or mobile apps. So for them, it provides an integrated communication channel between both the agents and the customers. So think of it as like another channel in an omni-channel strategy, a compliance channel. So Cathy, what are some other questions that you think the audience should be asking about how to secure the customer communication channels?
Sure. You know, to help with the customer experience, they should be working with their teams and thinking about, you know, is your messaging system complicated to use across different devices? You know, one time we didn't have to worry about that, but we do now. You know, just because your platform is secure and compliant doesn't mean it's easy to use. So you want to be able to look at what the customer is going to experience as well as the user who's starting the process. Are you using a secure digital exchange as part of your, you know, everyday electronic communications? You know, what do you know about integrated secure messaging, such as the cost and the ease of use? You know, sometimes these are limited to certain departments that maybe only the financial team knows about the cost, and they're looking at the cheapest cost, but maybe not the best solution. You know, have you reviewed the risks of digital communications with your clients? Have you tested it? Keyword there, have you tested it? Are you able to, you know, transport and track sensitive data as it travels across the internet? If you're already communicating with your clients electronically, do you know if your messaging system is built on a secure data exchange, you know, platform? Using, you know, platforms to simplify the process while ensuring trusted compliance and protection of sensitive data is something that should be a target your institution is looking at. You know, that's where you want to get to, the final end goal.
Got it. All right. So in summary, we believe that a single strategy defines everything that we do. It's kind of like a blueprint when building a house. Your team should provide that backbone to help your organization connect with your customers. And even throughout the entire digital transformation or customer experience lifecycle, they should be doing that. And your CX strategy should drive customer engagement in every relevant way across all communication channels and increase that customer acquisition, customer loyalty, improve that customer interaction, and most importantly, that helps you build a deep relationship and retain those customers long term. And if you don't remember anything else from the presentation, remember this: you can't run from it. Sorts of ways. And A, you have to make sure that you can respond to it quickly, and B, you have to make sure that it's secure. All right, so what we'll do is I saw a bunch of questions come in to the chat box. If anyone else has questions, feel free to put them in now. But what we can do is I can start going through and answering a couple here. So let's see. You mentioned cross-channel a bunch. So how do you get business and technical to work together? They usually work independently in our company. Cathy, do you think you can answer that? Hey, Cathy. let's see, I'll answer that. So cross-channel. So how do you get them to work together? So a lot of the things that I've been hearing from a lot of our customers is they're building out this whole customer experience team. And it seems like a lot of organizations have a different definition of what customer experience might be. But in the end, what it really is it's kind of this role that's speaking on behalf of their customers to the organization. So they're saying, hey, IT, we need to fix this piece. And hey, marketing, we need to make sure that this looks functional and works well, because all the feedback we're getting from our clients is they don't like doing it this way, or they can't go in and log in this way. So I think from them, they're looking to see, hey, we need somebody who can actually claim this as a responsibility, because a lot of the times we've seen in companies, they're given pushback. Hey, marketing tells us to do this, but we can't do it in this way because we need to, who knows what it is, right? It could be we need to implement something this way, but it's not going to work in quite the same way that we expect the customers to do. And then there's fighting back and forth. So that customer experience team is speaking on behalf of their customer. So that's what I would say. You need to get some kind of person or role to be able to bridge that gap between the two.
And Christian, I'm sorry, my audio kicked out there. I was talking, but nobody was hearing me. So I work a lot with small firms where you have individuals who are wearing many different hats. And then in a larger firm, these are all different departments. And you really need to sit down with your technology group, your marketing team, your operations team, your compliance team, and your finance team. You have to build a whole unified group, because each of them actually plays a role in the system that you're going to implement. You want to know from the people who are on the front line who are dealing with your customers what the customer really wants. They hear it all the time. What are they looking for? Okay, now let's look at the compliance team. What do we need for regulation? And all right, what's our budget? That's the finance team. And technology-wise, do we have to, get a program, a series of programs? Do we have to upgrade our equipment? All of them play a role. And a lot of times what I see is the marketing team is promoting it out, but not really working with the different areas to make sure they've captured all the different teams in that. So when we're looking at the cross-channel, we really want to focus on bringing all of them together.
Got it. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So another one I got here, it says when you're talking about testing, what does that mean? And I know you mentioned testing these solutions, Cathy. Can you help elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. And I can give you a live example. So, I had a client that implemented a secure email system, and that's all they were working on was secure email. It was really easy for their users to send, but they never looked to see what the customer was going to receive. So when they sent it out, their customers were confused on the documents they were receiving, because, as you know, we all have signatures in our emails, and in the secure email program, it converted all the signatures to images, and it made it look like they were all attachments. So now the customer signs in, gets this email, and it has 16 different attachments on it, but really only one was the attachment. They never went through to test it. So the first thing you should be doing when you are implementing anything like this, send it to a private email. I would tell you, I would send it to my private email. Let me see what the customer is going to see when they open it, and is this a good experience for them? And if I don't like it, then move on to the next program. You want to look and see and make sure it's smooth all the way through.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we do the same thing too. When we're testing out a lot, we have, I don't know, I think each person in QA has about 100,000 email addresses that they send to each other. All right, let's look at another one. So our customers prefer text message. So how do we do that securely? So you know what? Text is a funny thing. I would say there are some companies that tout that they do things like secure text messaging, but in the end, I would say what most of our customers actually do is they have some kind of like an event notification tool. So something that says, hey, I prefer text communications, or I prefer email, or whatever. And they actually push a lot of those secure communications to a link, even by text, that opens up, their portal or whatever it might be that they're getting to. So it's not necessarily that they're sending the actual information through text, and also sometimes you can't just send files and stuff like that through text. So I would say a lot of these times the back and forth, especially within financial, it could be different for other industries, but within financial, what they're doing is they'll just send them like a notification by text. Like, hey, you have a secure message waiting for you, click on this link, and then they do it and they pull up their own portal, or who knows, some people still do the third-party portal. We do both. A lot of companies, depending on what they're looking for. So I would say right now that's how they're doing it, not necessarily pushing the information through text, but doing it in a way that's more or less like the secure email when you go to a different portal.
Yeah, sure.
Right, let's see. We don't have a big development team. Could we integrate messaging into our banking, our online banking? Cathy, you think you can answer that?
So integrating a program like this can be really inexpensive. Especially regulatory requirements mean that you have to keep track of all your communications you're doing with a client to begin with, and someone has to be able to review it. So it really doesn't matter if you don't have a developmental team, to put that together. You can work with, again, your compliance, your IT, your operations team, and always making sure you're looking at the front-end users, the people who are actually facing the clients, and looking to see, okay, what do we want to deliver to them, and let's find a program that's reasonable in cost. Depending, sometimes it can get crazy, but there's a lot that you can actually do to meet these demands of the clients and do it fairly inexpensively. So yeah, I think that you don't really need a developmental team. I think you can do it with, I've seen some of my small firms have 3 people in the entire firm. They're a micro size, and one person's covering all of those different areas. So yeah, you can definitely do it.
Sure. All right, let's do another one here. We're a community bank, and we rely on personal touch, but with everything going on, nobody's touching anyone. What's the first thing we should do when moving over to digital? So there's a lot of different pieces of digital, especially with banking. So at this point, everyone probably has mobile banking, right? I mean, the pieces that you can't do, actually, I think, Cathy, you mentioned a lot of these before, something like notary, digital signatures, those are all important. Yeah. But I think a lot of the times with that whole personal touch thing, from all their banking customers, at least from our community banks and organizations that really focus on that face-to-face communication, that's going to start to go away for a while at least. So I think putting something in place to be able to easily communicate with them back and forth, I think might help. It seems like a lot of people are looking for these quick chat function is always effective, but a lot of times you can't send files. So if you do need to send files, maybe do like a secure chat, some kind of integrated secure chat. I think realistically what you need to do is just find a quick way to be able to communicate with them back and forth, but always, again, like we mentioned during the presentation, make sure you're doing it securely too. So not only should, I would say, marketing get involved, who would be responsible, I guess, in most cases for something like your website or the communications piece on there, but get like a security officer or something involved too to make sure that you're doing all that securely. And not only that it's secure, but you can actually track it too, because I think security and compliance are like 2 different beasts, more or less, and they want what they want.
It's true, they are separate, and a lot of times the requirements are completely separate.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to answer. You got to kind of make sure that they're both happy. All right, so let's look at another one. We already have email encryption in place, but our loan officers don't use it because they don't want to risk their leads going somewhere else. Do you hear that from your customers?
I do. So that's really a great statement there. And if you don't mind, Christian, I'll take that on.
Sure, you know.
Because it goes right with what I was talking about a few minutes ago with that experience, with that one customer that I had, or excuse me, my client, but the customer couldn't figure out what they were trying to receive. And with the generation changing right now, becoming everything is technology, you know, especially the millennials and down, when they can't get something very convenient, they want to change and go somewhere else. And I can understand the loan officers in that case being worried that, oh my gosh, if this is a problem, what happens? Well, the clients get frustrated and they want to work with somebody that's going to meet their needs and be really easy and fulfill everything that they want at any time that they want. So yeah, it goes back to the testing as well. If you're testing and making sure that your program meets the needs of all your different departments, again, your compliance and operations, your customer side, etc., your end customer experience is going to be good. You know, if that's your main goal, you start there and backtrack to all the other departments to make sure that you're covering all your bases. And this is why you want to make sure that it's also easy for your end user, because you don't want them to say, well, you know what, I'm worried about my client not being able to use this program. It's too difficult for me. I'm just going to send it unsecure. And I've seen that happen. And I think you mentioned it earlier. That becomes a regulatory nightmare. And anything you send electronic can all be tracked. And next thing you know, you're going to have some issues popping up with the regulators of wanting to know why you're sending, you know, personal information unsecure.
Right. Yeah, and we're hearing the same things too. Let's see. We currently have a portal and we allow our clients to fill out a form and it gets sent to us, but we tell them not to put any sensitive information on the form. Can we do that securely? Sure. There's a bunch of different ways that we do it. So a lot of, Cathy, if you don't mind, I'll tackle this too.
Yeah.
But we, as far as a quote-unquote secure forms solution, if you're an organization and you are taking in data using a form, it could probably be like, usually it's a PDF. Sometimes they do it on their website too. But a lot of the times that's a pretty manual process. Like somebody fills something out, either they have to print it out afterwards and bring it in, or they have to mail it in. If they do submit it, again, like they said, they probably don't ask for any sensitive information. But if you're in financial, then what are you going to be asking for that's not sensitive? So I think you want to like empower them to be able to put whatever they want in there and have confidence that it's secure. So what we do is we help build our customers, we help build a secure form solution for our customers so they can actually hit some kind of like a submit secure or whatever you want to call it button and have that information go somewhere, wherever it needs to go, right? You want to keep it digital. So a lot of the times it can get dumped into a repository or like a CRM or wherever it needs to go, even if it's just an email. But it takes away that whole manual piece of having to retype it in or having somebody look at it and not being able to read the handwriting and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's see. Our support agents use chat to service our clients. Is there any way to do that securely? So that's actually, I brought this up before as an option. And right now, there's a couple of ways. So a lot of chat programs, as long as everything is kept internally, a lot of that is secure. So I would say if you have something that's internal to internal, meaning like you have an internal agent logged into a view and that chat is going back and forth and the other person on the other end is also logged into that same program, usually that's secure. But a lot of the times it's some kind of agent somewhere in some kind of customer-facing area being put and trying to push that information outbound. And if they're doing that, then it does hit the public network in some way. So a lot of times I would say find something that you can kind of integrate those pieces, I guess securely or not. So if you enable your agents to be able to push out something like a file or something and expect a reply back with maybe information filled out, then you want to be able to make sure that that's secure. But a lot of the times, if it's something like a quick transient chat, like within a site, just asking a couple of questions and having it go back and forth, usually those are secure. But if you want to empower them to do a little bit more, maybe like send a transcript of the chat somewhere or whatever, you probably want to do that securely. So I think a lot of secure providers out there have access to something like APIs to help build that in. But otherwise, I would talk to the chat program. Okay. When looking to implement a self-service portal, where do I begin? Cathy, do you want to tackle that one?
Okay. So when you're going to start with this process, assuming you don't have anything in place, or maybe you have different parts and you want to try to get it all together in one, again, I would assemble the people that work in those different departments we talked about, your finance, your compliance, IT, operations, and someone at the end game where the client facing. And let's look and see, what do you want to give to the client? What do you want this to do? So, what services? Do you want to do secure email? Do you want it to be able to be available on PC as well as mobile apps? Maybe you want to connect your communications to a CRM program. That's a whole nother step, which many companies have to do as a separate step to try to get them connected to keep their records. That's where they want to keep it, with the client contact information. Maybe you have an email retention. In the financial world, you have to maintain your emails in a viewable form, and I've worked with companies who have a great program for sending secure information, but when it gets sent secure, it goes into an encrypted message. And in the retention portal, that's how it is. It's encrypted. So now your compliance people need IDs and passwords for every user that uses that program to try to look at the emails, which is another regulatory concern. Do you want to send large files? Are there going to be times where I've had customers who have clients that need Medicaid planning, which is 5 years of documents that they need to pull and submit to their client, which are huge, huge data files. Are these things that you may need? And you want to look at all those areas and see what type of program is going to meet the needs of all those sections. That would be the first thing I would want to do. Sit down and say, okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish? And now what program is going to help us get to that point?
Yeah. Yep. All right. The next question, our entire staff is working from home now, even our call center agents. Can we guarantee they're emailing the clients securely? Well, I think that's a tough call, right? And that's what a lot of people are going through at this time. They got to make sure that everything that they're doing is secure. So I think a lot of the times what you need to do is enable them to be able to easily send things securely. I think we mentioned it before. If you give somebody a clunky way of doing it, they're probably not going to do it that way, because in the end, they're trying to sell, right? They're trying to sell loans, whatever it might be. They're trying to get their client to be as happy as possible. And if their client's got to jump through a bunch of hoops, then they're probably not going to continue to go through that. So you need to empower them. I would say if it says even our call center agents, I think what you need to do is have something integrated into whatever application they're using. So if they're using something like I don't know, like a Salesforce or a I think Avaya's got a call center application. So I think if you have customers in there, Genesis I think is one of them. If you have customers that are in, or agents that are in these type of portals, typically I'd say traditionally they don't enable them to be able to send securely. So try and find some kind of secure messaging solution that's flexible, that can, where you don't have to make them go out of that to go into something else, to a portal, to whatever Outlook or Gmail or whatever it is to send something, just to do it securely there. Make it upfront and visible. And also I think one thing to note too is make sure that a lot of that is logged and tracked in there too, because a lot of these agents, I would imagine there could be multiple agents serving one client, depending on the case. So a lot of the times you don't want to lose that communication. So make sure that you can do something securely and that everything is logged and tracked. I guess this is a piggyback. We have email encryption, but we can't track if the message went out securely. How could this be different? Well, with our platform, DataMotion's platform, all transactions that go through the system are logged and tracked, and that doesn't really necessarily matter if they're from a, like I just mentioned, a CRM or a call center, or from something like a traditional Outlook, or even from something that we use, like we could allow you to compose a message in our portal, something like that. But all those transactions are logged and tracked. So regardless of how they're initiated, again, it could be initiated, I think I mentioned secure forms before. They could be initiated that way. They could be initiated through a client chat if it's done through there. But you want to make sure all those transactions are logged and tracked, because Cathy, you mentioned it before, the compliance team is totally different from the security team, and they have their own priorities. Security wants to make sure it's secure, and compliance wants to make sure they can prove it. So as long as you can do all that, I think you're probably in a safe place.
You know, and to piggyback on that, I know during the presentation you mentioned about having users having to hit a separate key. And I can't tell you, in doing email audits, how many times I find that the user just forgets. You know, they're side by side and they're just used to sending regular emails, and they forget to send it. And then when you question them, that, oh, well, you know, I forgot to do it. Well, it's not really acceptable, you know. So it's more or less, if you can make it where it just happens for them, it makes life so much easier all the way around.
Yep, totally agree. So that's it for the questions. So one thing I want to do is I want to highlight Cathy's company, Cucharale Consulting Group. They provide comprehensive solutions for a diverse range of financial firms and businesses. CCG focuses on the challenges that companies face regarding regulatory compliance, business development, organizational management, and you can see all that information there at www.cucharalegroup.com. And also, my organization, shameless plug, DataMotion provides products and services that help secure digital information. And again, this is particularly in industries where sensitive information is the core of their business, like banks and financial institutions. And we believe that data and security, regulatory compliance shouldn't necessarily get in the way of a great digital experience for both the customers and the employees. So for us, compliance without complexity is our goal and our commitment to our customers, and of course, and their customers too. So for more information, visit us at www.datamotion.com. And before you go, make sure you give us the greatest rating of all time. I'm pretty sure you're able to rate us on there. And thank you so much, everyone. I hope this information was very helpful for you. And one other side note as well, today's webinar will be made available to you shortly via the Bright Talk platform, if not already.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and thanks, Christian, for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.